Now, I'm very excited on the next edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio and, of course, my YouTube channel. My guest is a fantastically talented, multi-talented singer, presenter. I'm, of course, talking about Aled Jones. Thank you, Aled, for
Hi.
joining me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for that introduction. It just means I'm not very good at anything. Jack of all trades.
Now, I mean, we must start off by talking about the hot weather, because although everything else that's going on around us at the moment, it is the weather at the moment that's kind of getting to us. How are you coping with all this heat wave?
I'm all right with it, you see. A lot of my family don't like it. My son's not particularly keen, but yeah, I just get on with it. I'd much rather it be sunny than rainy. So, and during this awful lockdown period that we've had, I think the weather has really helped. The fact that you can get out a little at least. And sunny weather does make you feel sunny inside, I think. So, yeah, but today in particular has been a hot one. I was sort of in the car for a bit of it with air conditioning, and I came out and I thought my legs were going to buckle. It was so warm. But no, I don't mind it too much.
And of course, the other situation we find ourselves in at the moment is obviously lockdown and the coronavirus. How are you coping, or how have you coped with the lockdown, various stages? How have you coped with everything that's been going on?
Well, it's an interesting one, this really, because when it first started, I didn't have a problem really. I was my family were pretty scared. I worked all the way throughout it on Classic FM, and it was very eerie, I would say, for the first 3 weeks. Driving into London and not seeing anyone. I remember the first morning driving down the Mall and past Buckingham Palace, and not a single soul being there. And you think to yourself, what's happening? It's like an apocalypse almost. But then I've noticed now that it's getting gradually busier and busier and busier, which also is a bit frustrating for me, because as a singer, I can't do what I want to do. I've had to postpone my tour from October this year to May next year. And it's just, sometimes I catch myself thinking, when am I ever going to sing again? It breaks my heart on social media when I see theatres closing. Last week, it really affected me quite badly when I saw the tweet from Kudos, I think it was, saying that, so many, or nearly all of the pantomimes, if not all of them, are not happening this year. And you just think how much worry that must be creating for so many people, So if I want COVID to go away now, let's put it that way. And I really want to sing again, It's very frustrating in that aspect.
I mean, the other thing that's obviously a bit worrying is parts of the country are heading backwards, if anything, which is not where we want to see ourselves.
No.
I mean, I'm based down in the south, and at the moment, touch wood, we're okay.
Right.
Whereabouts in the country are you?
I'm in London, so just on the outskirts of London, and I think today I noticed that our number had gone up. I've been very good during lockdown, being incredibly careful to social distance, and my hands for the first 3 months were red raw from washing them. And I'm still going through that process, of course. And I realise, that people do have to go back to work because, people need to earn money. But yeah, it would break my heart really to see a second wave, because, it's been tough.
Now, I mean, obviously you've not been able to do your performing and your singing, but it must be nice to know you've still been able to do something with, obviously being able to do Classic FM.
I consider myself very, very lucky that I've had that, because I know that there are people in, much worse predicaments than myself, not being able to work at all. But Classic FM, being able to do that has been fantastic. And also the letters and the emails and stuff that we've had through, it's just been astonishing, from people saying that, Classic FM has really helped them relax, if you like, at such a difficult time. And I suppose it's proof that the music we play really does hit you in your soul, So yeah, it's been great to be able to do Classic FM. I wasn't able to do Songs of Praise until a couple of weeks ago. And then we started filming, again, being, socially distant. And it's quite funny in a way that everyone I speak to, the production manager, whoever's with us, has to come with a big 2-meter stick that they've now got. And interviews are, held at that distance. So everyone's safe.
I mean, that's the other thing is like people who are getting back to work are having to do things completely different to how they've, been done in the past. I mean,
Absolutely.
how have you found, for example, Classic FM and doing Songs of Praise with all the distancing?
It's it's interesting. All I'd say is that Global, where I work, is such a bustling place, and when I go into Classic now, there's probably 3 people there instead of 30. And as I say, when I did a couple of weeks on air every day, and the studios are all disinfected and all this sort of business. So we've all just had to learn to work in a different way. But it feels like normal will never come back, but I so want it to. And I hope I'm not. I hope I'm not being naive in thinking that we can one day get back to normal.
Now,
But you
obviously,
have to take them for granted.
Now, I was going to say, obviously, having done presenting and doing performing, I mean, for you, is there a favourite, or does it depend on what job you're doing, or I mean, what for you is your first love?
In a way, I love the fact that I can go from one thing to another. But singing will always be number one. I was very lucky when lockdown restrictions came to an end that I got to record an album as well. The orchestra were recorded in New Zealand before Corona reared its ugly head. And so, I spent 3 days in the studio recording an album, and that helped in some respect. But, when I'll ever get to sing it live, who knows? Because apparently we sing a spit a lot. I never knew. I don't think I do, but yeah, I read in some report that that's why, we can't get on stage because, yeah, obviously some singers do, but yeah, I wasn't aware that I did. But, singing will always be number one because that's what I've always done. And there's nothing quite like being on stage in front of an audience.
And I know that they have slowly started trialing these socially distanced audiences. I know that Beverly Knight, I think it was, did a show where it was very sparse audiences. I mean, it's a positive that we're getting back to that kind of, sort of position. But it must be strange because I can't imagine when you've got a half empty audience, that must affect your performance a bit because you're thinking, where's the rest of the audience gone?
Well, it would have in the past. I think if I'd come out and seen a place sort of quarter empty, I would have thought, uh-oh. But now I think it'll be all right because at least there are some people there. I thought the trial was great, and I think Andrew Lloyd Webber did a grand job, and fantastic that he's pushing and pushing and pushing to get live performance back. Because I'm with a lot of performers that I see on social media that I don't understand how you can sit on a plane for 4 hours or more. But you can't sit in a theatre. I don't understand that really. But yeah, if now they say that we can get into theatres, but theatres can't survive being a quarter empty or a quarter full. But we must try everything to get back to performing because there are millions of people in this country out of work and desperate really.
Now, obviously, we were talking earlier, and you said obviously you've had to postpone your tour, which is obviously not what you wanted to do. But obviously, there's no sort of other alternative really. So for you, when you do eventually get back out on the road, I imagine it will be the best feeling ever, but also it'll be nice to finally reconnect with the fans and actually get to see them again because everything's been online, Zoom, Skype, and all this sort of stuff for the time being.
And it's not the same, and it really isn't the same. I've been doing a podcast and doing a lot of my sort of interviews that I do for various radio shows like BBC Radio Wales from the house. And more than anyone, having to deal with delays and all this sort of business. It's been a nightmare, but I've learned to become a little bit of a techie. Especially with the podcast, because it took us about a good 2-3 weeks to get, the sound right without delays and crackle and all that sort of business. But yeah, I cannot wait to, interact, I suppose, whether I'll be allowed to in the same way. But, never again will I, well, I'm saying never again, but for this next tour anyway, I won't moan about a 3-hour car journey from one city to another. It'll be joy.
And of course, the other thing is with lockdown, people have been learning new skills. Like you say, you've been obviously doing podcasting. Would you say that in terms of things like doing podcasts, would you say it's better to yourself? You've learned and you feel like this is stuff you can take forward into the future?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think also I've learned that I can do a lot more sort of just myself as well. You know, you instead of sort of relying on other people, this has been a period where you do everything yourself. So yeah, I think in that respect, it's well, I don't know if any good has come from it. I tell you what, the only good thing, I mean, this is a great thing, is that I've managed to spend so much quality time with my family, which has been amazing. You know, and there really hasn't been any sort of cross words, really. Not serious ones anyway, but yeah, it's in that respect, it's been a real blessing.
It has definitely brought families closer together, and although it's, you know, not something that you'd wish to happen again, it's something that I think we can all learn from. And you know, the other thing is obviously how much we appreciate our NHS and things like that as well.
Oh, 100%. You know, that whole clapping thing on a Thursday evening was just incredible. And actually, in a way, that brought communities together as well, even though you couldn't actually, you know, shake anyone's hand or anything like that. You know, I was seeing people out on the street that I've never sort of smiled at before or said hello to, not because I'm moody or anything, just because maybe you just don't know that they're there, you know. And yeah, on a Thursday evening, we started, there would always be a wave and a smile to some people that, you know, that live close by. So in that respect, it brought communities together. And seeing the work that the NHS did, you know, they are heroes. And yes, they deserve a clap, but they deserve more money as well. So, you know, yeah, I think that they've been amazing, and we do have the best health service in the world.
And do you think going forward that we will learn from this and we will change the ways that we do things, or do you think maybe we'll sort of slip back into old habits?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? I think, you know, it's slipping back was going to be very easy. You see that happening now more and more. You know, I notice even driving around London now, it's getting more or less back to normal as far as traffic's concerned. And, you know, yeah, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Now, obviously, with the show, when you do get to do it, do you know yet whether it'll have to change, whether you'll still be able to do the show you had planned, or do you think it'll have to be tweaked, or, you know, do you know what will happen yet?
No, with the tour, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't think so, because also I'm very lucky on this tour to be performing in like 25 cathedrals. So, and I've always said, you know, if you can't socially distance in a cathedral, then where can you? You know, they're vast spaces, places like Liverpool Cathedral. You know, you could probably get about 5,000 in there, but you know, we'll be looking at 1,000. So, you know, it's. I think the show will be exactly the same as I had planned it. You know, it was always going to be geared around the new album. So the tour was going to be October this year. There's also a book and an album coming out this year. And the album is an album of blessings, and the book is a book of blessings. And on the album, I sing all kinds of blessings from different faiths. So there's a track with a guy called Sami Yusuf, who's one of the biggest selling Muslim singers in the world. So we have a Muslim piece and a Christian hymn intertwined. I've got a Quaker blessing that I do with Dame Judi Dench. I've got Bless This House, which is a Christian one, which I do with Susan Boyle. I've got the priests performing a Catholic blessing. And also at one point, we're still hopeful that we'll get the Mormon Tabernacle Choir on a Mormon blessing as well. So, and there's also Jehovah's Witness piece. So it's been a real labor of love for me. And you know, I was so thankful to be able to finish the album. And actually, it's weird in a way, because I think it's probably the best singing I've ever done. And whether that's been because I was starved of it for so long. So the minute I got back into the studio, it was like, oh, what a relief. So yeah, you know, and also thanks to COVID, I suppose I've had time to finish the book as well. So that's a blessing for every day of the year. And it's a book that people can go back to and write notes in and, you know, whatever, hopefully uplift.
Now, I was going to say, I mean, obviously when you're doing, you know, new material, do you get nervous before releasing it, or is it something that you're just excited and want to get it out there in the world?
I think I'm excited. I always get apprehensive because, you know, the last thing you want really is, say if the album comes out on a Friday and you hear on Monday that, you know, no one's bought it, and or not no one, but not as many as you expected. And I've had those albums in the past, you know, and it's never nice. But no, I'm always more excited, really, and proud as well. You know, that I get the opportunity to still make records is amazing. You know, this will be album number 39, I think. I remember interviewing Engelbert Humperdinck, the great Engelbert Humperdinck, who I love to bits, and he was on album number 85 or something like that. And I asked him, are you nervous about this? And he said, yeah, petrified. And I was like, after 85 albums, you know, I think that feeling as a performer, you know, you're giving of your heart, aren't you? So, you know, some people will get it and some people won't. You know, some people really hate my music and some people say, you know, please, can we have it at our funeral? So, you know, it's polar opposites.
And it's also a good sign to know that obviously you care about the work you're doing, and that you're like you say, you're putting your heart and soul into it, and you want people to take it to their hearts and for it to be special to them as well.
Absolutely, and that's the whole thing. You know, when I'm in the studio, it's not a case of just banging it out. You know, I suppose the only thing that I've got maybe is that I can put heart and soul and emotion into a piece, you know, and that's what I love doing, you know, and I work with such a small team, you know, it's the same people all the time, it's people that I love and respect, and also we have a lot of fun. This album has been crazy in a way because my engineer and myself were in a studio in London, tiny little studio really, just a vocal booth and a studio, and my producer was in New Zealand. So, you know, it was but being able to hear it in real time and stop me and give notes and stuff. So, and I was watching him on an iPad, you know, never thinking that that's how I would make an album. But, needs must.
And also, when you're enjoying yourself, I think you know, the audience can tell more, and it does show on the album because you're putting your energy into it.
Absolutely, and I think that's where I went wrong in the past, you know, because for some reason, as kind of classical singers, we all want to do pop music sometimes, and it very rarely works, you know. And so I did an album. There were a few pop songs, but you know, they were done in a kind of Alan Jones way, which is square if you're a pop singer, really. So, I've only done maybe one or two of those albums over the years, and you know, and I've very much now decided that I will do what I do, you know, and I love coming up with the concept of a new album, you know, and it's usually my idea from start to finish, and you know, and it's something I've always wanted to do, or an idea that's just come into my head, and it's odd that this album of blessings seems really apt for now, because you know the idea started last year, you know, so. But yeah, I'm excited for people to hear this one because I know everyone says this is the best album I've ever done, but I think it is.
And of course, it's a completely, you know, different contrast to you know, a lot of people obviously know the Snowman, and obviously I think now some people would quite, you know, be happy with a bit of snow, but obviously for you to kind of be able to, you know, continue to change and evolve and bring your career to, you know, forward to present day, and show that, you know, you're able to, you know, change and adapt. It must be quite nice to reinvent yourself every so often as well.
Yeah, I think it is, you know, but I don't. But what I meant before was I sort of don't venture too far away from what people expect. Really, it's nice, you know, to do shows and stuff that, you know, are a bit more fun and stuff like that. But you know, the singing sort of stuff is I do what I do, and that's it. You know, I like dipping into musical theatre. You know, been very lucky to be in some great shows. You know, Joseph was an amazing experience. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Well, The Car's the Star, and also then, you know, White Christmas in the Dominion in London for 12 weeks was great. But you know, but again, I dip in and out of those, and you know, I am qualified to do them because I spent 2 years at Bristol Ovick Theatre School. But I always feel a little bit of an outsider, especially if there's any dancing involved.
I was gonna say, everyone learns, and everyone, you know, that's the whole thing is you know, you pick up little bits here and there, and you never know when it will come in handy in the future.
Well, no, exactly. And as I say, I really like dipping in and out of it, you know, not doing stuff for maybe, you know, a couple of years and then doing a show again. But again, you know, I can't go into a long commitment with a musical because of everything else I do. So, yeah, hopefully I'll get to do that one day. I was going to say soon, then, but who knows?
Yeah, I was going to say the future is a bit uncertain at the moment. Now, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. But before we go, any messages you'd like to give to anyone who is stuck in hospital at the moment, who's obviously, you know, maybe not having the greatest of times? Any messages you'd like to give them?
Well, I'm just sending all my love, and get well soon. That's all I can say. You know, and let's all have positive vibes that the world will get back to normal. And we can all do what we used to do in the past. But if you are listening in hospital, yeah, get well soon and keep positive.
Thank you so much, Alan. It's been an absolute pleasure. Of course, keep safe. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you too. Really nice to talk to you.